I already started.
Oh, never mind.
I am resident of color for YouTube, Joel Sains. That's my buddy Patrick McRae. That's my buddy Alan Gallant. We're here to talk the 1961 movie, The Curse of the Werewolf. Oliver Reed is in this bad boy. He's 23 years old in this movie.
And a bad boy it is.
Going on 43.
I really like the costume designs for the period they're in. Really, really cool. What did you guys think?
I think it's classic, Hammer horror in terms of that. The everything from the film stock to the the texture of the color to the costuming and all of that sort of thing. I think definitely where you are in terms of that aesthetic.
It's the kind of period piece that comes only once in a month.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, and lasts for 5 days before you actually see the werewolf.
That was good.
Speaking of blood in this movie, there is usually Hammer movies have a shitload of blood. Not so much with this.
No, they padded it out.
They did.
Why is that, guys? You guys know, or
they spent an awful lot of time, I think, creating a specific mythos for this film. Yeah. And instead of having the blood curse passed down, it's when you're born on Christmas, you're doing something to the baby Jesus, so you have to become a werewolf. It's that kind of thing. So the
baby Jesus, or the BJ as he's known, doesn't like to be upstaged.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah,
so you sprout hair on your palms.
That's why Rod Serling was a werewolf. He was born on Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, to Alan's point, what I love most about this movie is its psychology, because it's really one of the first werewolf movies that get into the soul of the werewolf itself, or the beast, as they say, and they talk about the soul has to transfer into another person via birth, which is really interesting.
It's different. It's different.
Well, it's just like Extends. It's just good science.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it gives a good psychology to the film for sure.
It gives a different foundation to what becomes sort of the Larry Talbot guilt and sweating over the full moon and all of that sort of thing that always happens with these kind of movies, but it has a different foundation to it. So that's a bit interesting.
Yeah. They still keep the full moon aspect, but they add a little element of their own to give it a little more kick. They don't just fully rip off of the Wolfman here, which is smart.
Right.
Which is smart. The setting is really cool. It's a period piece setting, and to see Oliver Reed's character go through the changes I love I remember the Wolfman, how you got the makeup. This is completely different from that. What did you guys think of the makeup of the werewolf?
It's a good makeup job. It has its own identity, but it still is sort of your classic walking wolf. Yeah. Without becoming the elongated snout and going the Rick Baker route, which is fine. But honestly, I always found the Rick Baker route to be a little disappointing. Especially American Werewolf in London. I know everybody's supposed to worship it. And I like the screenplay. It's the one werewolf screenplay, American Werewolf in London, where, he's interesting. It's more interesting when he's not the werewolf than when he is.
Sure. He's got more character than just what I referred to as the guilt and sweating.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And because he really is a genuine victim. He has not been mean to anyone. He's not screwed over a gypsy. He hasn't done any of those things.
Right.
He was just on a backpacking trip with Griffin Dunn, and bam, this happens. But I always felt cheated by too much wolf. I want more were and less wolf. I like that Jack Pierce kind of humanimal look.
And that ties into the psychology of of werewolfism too. It's another aspect of being human.
Yes.
Yeah, with this, the face is is part wolf, but it's part humanistic as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it's Oliver Reed, even with the makeup on. You can see.
But it's really well done makeup, and it makes you it makes you humanize the werewolf and feel sorry for the person who's changing still. Which
again, it's not his fault. So
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know how much makeup they really used. You know, it was like in Battle for the Planet of the Apes, where, as I've said, Paul Williams and John Huston had no special makeup whatsoever. You know, to be those apes, they just showed up that way, and they put the wig on them and let it go.
Here's a microphone, Paul. Write the title theme.
That's right.
Go.
He appeared on the Barbara Mandrel like that.
Yeah.
Mandrel.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't dance. This is it.
This is it, folks. Tip your waitress.
But I do like how they do the arms. They're hairy and they're werewolfian. They still feel like it's part of the humanist too, because he's grabbing them with the paws. He's not just scratching them or ripping them to shreds.
Right.
What you would see in other werewolf movies to come, like an American Werewolf in London.
Well, plus it's Oliver Reed. He's hairy to begin with, so it's not.
He is suspiciously hirsute for an Englishman. I think there's some Welsh in there. I really do.
Probably is.
I do think because they have, there's a scene with him where he's shirtless and he doesn't have no hair on his chest. I wonder if they made him shave the hair off.
I think probably because I think maybe they filmed the werewolf scenes first so that he'd have hair on his chest.
Joel, did you give a lot of thought to Oliver Reed's chest being shaved slowly and lovingly?
This could turn into a wrestling.
Was he coated in oil afterwards just to make sure?
I'll tell you this: he worked out for this. You could tell he had some muscular build.
He's a lucky boy. Anyway,
that muscular chest that you're talking about now.
He was always kind of barrel chested, and he got bigger, of course, as he got older. But he was always in pretty good shape in his younger years. Absolutely.
Yeah. And he really does a great job when he's not the werewolf too. He makes you feel sorry. Like you guys talked about, he wasn't hurt. He didn't piss off a gypsy, and there's a girl who's in love with him, and he's in love with her. And they're like, they talk about his affliction and stuff like that when he's in jail. You really feel Oliver Reed, 23 years old, puts on a hell of a performance.
He does. His energy is riveting. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, as an actor, his energy is riveting anyway, and this is a real good indication of it.
It's a shame it takes the movie 56 minutes to get to him in a movie that only runs about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Though that it takes a long time to get to his character, because his character's not in the beginning of this movie. When he's on screen, he's the focus, though.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
He would have made a great Hercules.
He's on screen for a while because he's a child, but it's not Reed. Yeah. It's not what you're looking at.
Kid looks like Reed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were many children that age around the Shepperton area that looked like Oliver Reed.
Yes.
So probably casting it was pretty easy.
Yes. Since he was 17, he'd been roaming the countryside.
When I first watched this today, because I watched this 3 different times today, at first when I saw like the homeless beggar guy, at first I thought that was Oliver Reed for a second, but I'm like, no, it can't be.
No, it was it was a kid they cast to look very, very much like.
Lois, you never see the beggar and Oliver Reed in the same place at the same time.
That's true.
I just don't understand it. Ask Perry about it.
That beggar, I got to tell you.
When I watched this for the first time earlier today, when I saw the bell tower scene, I thought when they shot him, he would fall off. But no, to my surprise, he doesn't. He falls to the ground. And I love what the hunter does. He dignifiedly takes it off and covers it out of respect almost.
Well, because we can't see that it's not Kim Novak.
They didn't want to show off her rather ample bosoms, so they had.
That's right, because later in the movie, when you see Kim Novak
die with her back facing the cameras.
Yeah, it's later in the movie. It's gotta. He's gotta wonder. He's got to start putting werewolf makeup on her more and more until, there she is.
Well, this brings up a point too, Jewel. This is a silver bullet movie. This isn't.
Yeah, it is.
It's not one of the other methodologies. It's a silver bullet movie.
Yeah, it definitely is. You see, you actually, what the cool part about this movie is too, you get to see a silver bullet be made, which I enjoyed the hell out of. I mean, anytime you can see a cool effect of a silver bullet being made. Actually, you do see that in a movie we discussed, The Monster Squad, as well.
You do? I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. I think also, I'm not sure in the movie, the movie Silver Bullet, you see it, but you do see it in this movie.
If I were in charge of the Dark Shadows franchise, I'm serious about this, one of the little eddies, one of the side eddies that would follow is that Stokes would essentially keep Braithwaite and Sons as his Q branch.
Right, so that he could have all the silver bullets he needed.
And that they would secretly have gone into the occult fighting equipment business.
Crucifixes, bullets.
Yeah, there's the showroom and then there's the other showroom.
Right. Silver stake, just to make sure.
Yeah. That's a cool idea.
Yeah. Yeah, it is actually. It is quite a cool idea.
It would make sense.
That could have happened in Malibu Nights.
It could have happened in Malibu Nights. That's right.
It would make sense considering Stokes had a witch's medallion. I mean, why not?
Oh yeah, I mean he's probably got an entire collection behind a false wall in his apartment, in his house. So
he's got a box full of silver bullets lying around.
Sure, why not?
No doubt. Well, because I'm also convinced Stokes is a member of the Hellfire Club. And that they thoroughly equip him with these things. He is the American Office.
It's probably where he learned his trade to fly. So
yeah. I mean, and I'm sure Ben Stokes at some point, in his dotage became a member of the Hellfire Club, and that's where part of his fortune came from.
Do you guys think at the end when the hunter shoots the werewolf, do you think he pictured Oliver Reed's character behind the bars saying, he pictured the human, not the beast?
Well, I think he could have recognized that it was the human behind the beast with the clothes that he was wearing and things like that. And he also had a dislike of Oliver Reed and his character anyway. He didn't like him.
He probably was one of the insurers of the movie.
Yeah. But it's also that's getting back to the old legends, particularly from France and Germany, where it's oftentimes in those legends it is a hunting party or a huntsman that finally brings down the werewolf.
Yeah. Who's your favorite character in this movie?
Oliver Reed.
Well, it's Reed at the end. Yeah, definitely. And his adult version of the character, I would have
when he's finally allowed into the film.
Yes,
it's like, not today, Ollie, not today. I thought I was going to get to shoot. Not today.
Not today. Go back to the pub.
What kind of film are you making? Well, it's one starring you eventually.
Don't worry,
but not today.
Here's an advance in cash. Go back to the pub.
All right, you say so, but I'll be back. I'll be back.
I got a lot of things
I only talk like this.
I got a lot of characters I like.
This is me screaming.
Oliver Reed, obviously, you guys are right. But the setting itself, and that, I don't know if this movie starts the trend, but throughout the 60s, you're sort of are going to see protagonists with their shirts off. Look at Chado's Land, for example.
All right, Joel, you've gone too far this time.
With Charles Bronson.
It's getting closer and closer to that, and also, I mean, as the 60s roll on, you're also getting more sexual themes in certain movies. So you do have guys with shirts off and ladies half dressed and so on. But Hammer also is very, very famous for that, especially with the young ladies in the vampire movies.
I think there was so much furor and flap. I'm getting some coal right now. There was so much furor and flap over the lost reel of Inherit the Wind, where Frederick March and Spencer Tracy had their shirts off,
It's true. The rest of the
they really
figured
they couldn't go further. That stopped Hollywood for a long time. It's just too much raw sexuality on the screen.
They had to. They decided to wait a while and do it
And
in
reel it back in.
Yeah, but I think there are movies in horror like sexuality is becoming a part of horror more and more.
Of course.
And this is
Absolutely.
one of those films that definitely sort of sets that trend here with.
I mean, Carolyn Monroe, Ingrid Pitt, in the latter day Hammer films. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Where does this movie rank with you guys' favorite Hammer movies?
Oh, Joel, there are so many Hammer films.
It's true.
That might nudge their way a little further ahead of this one. It's just one of many. It's probably not towards the front for me, but that's because they made so many movies.
It's true. I would probably put this one somewhere in the lower half of the first 10. Because it's terrible. It's just that it doesn't deliver until so late in the movie. That's the thing that
it's no Quatermass in the Pit.
Yeah, it's not. It's absolutely not. It's not the early Dracula films or any of that sort of thing. It's not Baskervilles. It's which is
those amazing Frankenstein sequels.
Yeah.
This isn't the house that dripped blood.
No, but it's not a bad film. It's just that Hammer. I mean, sort of tongue in cheek, but yes, Hammer has made a great deal of interesting, good, texture-laden horror films. Really good stuff. So,
do you think Hammer learned a lot from making this film? Because you guys pointed out that Oliver Reed isn't shown for a good chunk of this movie until he is. Do you think they learned, okay, we need to show our star more, not less?
Or have a second star, so that when you have the reveal of the monster, it's you haven't, you've had something else to chew on for a while.
I will posit something else. The English, I'm gonna make gross generalizations here. The English, and you can certainly take this from their musicals, do many things very well. The tightest dramatic structure is not necessarily always one of them. Not everybody's, William Shakespeare, Oscar Wilde, and
right. So you're talking 20th century.
20th century. I've always found, post Shaw, I've always found that the English, it's hit and miss with structure. Sometimes things just happen, and you look at their musicals, and they're kind of meandering plays.
They're loose.
And songs just kind of happen. In an American musical, a song happens because the dramatic stakes reach a point where spoken words will no longer suffice. But an English musical, they just kind of occur. It's like they throw a dart at a timeline. I mean, look at Rocky Horror, any of the Andrew.
Right. Unless they're based on earlier literary works, like My Fair Lady or something like that, then they already have a built-in structure.
Yeah, but were Lerner and Lowe English? They were American.
No, but it was. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
actually,
I'm not talking about Pygmalion. I'm talking about My Fair Lady. Yeah. That's an exquisitely timed show.
I should have probably used Lionel Bart's Oliver.
Oh my God, that's a terrible show. That really screwed up American theater for a long time because it made theater all about a spectacular set,
right,
and not about the structure. I think that's a lousy show. Just my opinion. I mean, it's got a few good songs, but it's got to have more than. I mean, just give me Leonard Nimoy singing them on an album. Which he does really well. Where is Love?
I much prefer to hear him singing the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. Thank you very much.
Oh my God, he is so good.
It's true, and I think the litmus for that is it's been done to death by community theaters in this country.
Yes,
that's a
because
litmus.
you can put kids in it,
right?
And all the parents will come to see the kids, so it's just going to generate parent money.
Yes, exactly.
It's a very cynical show from that point of view.
Like the Anthony Newley musicals are very loose.
I love Anthony Newley, but those are like weird tone poems,
right?
Little Chap and all of that.
Yes,
a friend of mine saw the only once shown Sammy Davis "Stop the World, I Want to Get Off" in the theater the one day it played.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
he said it was great.
My parents went to see Roar of the Grease Paint back in like 1964, 65. And they didn't get to see Newley in it. He was out, he dropped, and Orson Bean was in it. And they said he was fantastic.
Now, Orson Bean's really good. And he was into Wilhelm Reich. He wrote a whole book about Reichian therapy.
Yep.
But it's true.
Orgone and all that stuff.
Orgone and Me was the name of the book. But Newley, I'm crazy about what range. And there was a show of his I always wanted to find a script to, and I couldn't, called The Good Old Battle Days, where he plays Satan.
Oh wow, that would be
cool. with an opening song called "Oh What a Son of a Bitch I Am," and you can find recordings of that. Yeah. It's really good.
Cool. Yeah. So in other words, the English were developing in many different directions, but in the theater they were quite loose during this period,
especially when it comes to musicals.
Yeah.
The two stage plays I've seen, I saw The Nutcracker and I saw The Phantom of the Opera. Phantom of the Opera is really fucking good.
It's another extravaganza. It's a spectacle, and if you like spectacle, you're gonna love that show, definitely. It's got a few really good songs too. I like it. I mean, I don't like a lot of Andrew Lloyd Webber grates on me after a while. He totally grates on me, but I understand why people like his work. I understand.
He's the villain in my first comic book, Elvis Shrugged.
Yeah. Well, he looks like a villain. I mean, he's this little man, he's just kind of...
He and Stephen Sondheim, is it true, have a fight in a nuclear reactor where Sondheim has a straight razor, of course.
Uh-huh.
That's his weapon of choice.
Yes.
And Lloyd Webber has a garden weasel.
And so they what do? Like slash each other's gin blossoms off?
He knocks Sondheim onto like the railing of a gangway that crosses through the reactors. They're trying to rescue Elvis, who's being crucified in the nuclear reactor.
Oh, okay.
And
wild.
And Sondheim's holding on with one hand, and Sondheim just laughs at him and says, "You're not Moriarty, and this ain't Reichenbach Falls." And then the floating head in a capsule of Cole Porter, who's Sondheim's mentor in this, rises and says, "Don't you know, little fool, you never can win." And it terrifies Lloyd Webber, and he plunges into the reactor to his death.
Of course.
This all happened, and Sondheim wrote me a fan letter, and he loved it.
No kidding.
True story.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think maybe he was trying to tell you something about his opinion of Webber, too.
Oh, there's a great Sondheim Lloyd Webber story. They apparently wrote, "God damn it, Lincoln, you're trying to stop me." Well, you won't. He loves Lloyd Webber.
Yes, apparently
so. Just might abandon in a moment of triumph. Anyway, so it's like it's Sardi's or something. And Lloyd Webber's in the bar. And so Sondheim, but they're at opposite ends of the bar. And Lloyd Webber spots Sondheim. And so he writes like a bar of memory or something like that on a cocktail napkin as his signature. And has a waiter hand it to him. And Sondheim looks at him and says, "The fuck is this?" And the waiter says, "There's a fellow musician who'd like to say hello." And this is a true story. Hands Sondheim the piece of music with memory on it. And Sondheim says, "What is this?" And he says, "As I said, there's a fellow musician who'd like to say hello." "I don't think that's accurate. You said a fellow musician?" Yeah. That's zing. I mean, Sondheim was a tough guy.
Yes, he was.
He was a tough guy. You do not want to piss him off.
He learned from some tough masters. So,
Did you ever?
Foxy, for one.
Mm-hmm.
His mother.
Did you ever see the MacGyver episode where they paid tribute to Phantom of the Opera?
No, just the one where they paid tribute to Pacific Overtures. It was a hell of a show. When did they?
Pete Thornton staggering through the...
Yeah, it's an episode called...
He was only 10. What was it?
It's an episode called Cleo Rocks. Actually, fun part, Penny Parker, who's played by Terry Hatcher, gets auditions for a play. Well, lo and behold, the play director is Murdoch, Michael Del Sparius. He's in a wheelchair in disguise, and it's not much of a disguise. Fun fact is, Michael himself wrote the theme "Cleo Rocks" for the episode.
Cool.
It's a fun little satire. It's a really good episode.
Who is Murdoch? I haven't seen much MacGyver.
Murdoch
is he the guy from the A-Team?
No, Murdoch is a master of disguise who's MacGyver's arch nemesis. They actually sort of copycat another character in the series.
What's he doing directing community theater?
Well,
He's
using Penny Parker to get to MacGyver, obviously.
It's
like community theater.
Right? It is, and he was an actual rock musician. He was married to Pamela Des Barres.
Pamela Des Barres. Yeah, he's with the band.
Yes,
but that has to be the single wackiest plot I have ever heard. Using community theater to finally get MacGyver.
Yeah, well,
if I had made the movie, that would have been the plot of the MacGyver movie.
Really?
Well, there's
a Lawrence Roman play would be the backdrop.
Pete Thornton would have uncovered the mystery because he would have smelled his cologne and realized who it was.
He was under the yum yum tree the whole time.
There's a character in MacGyver that they get the idea for Murdoch from. There's a character called the Assassin who is a master of disguise, and he disguises himself as a priest. MacGyver goes undercover as the Archbishop to fool the assassin.
I'll tell you what, I've had a number of shows, and if a master assassin had wanted to disguise himself as a beleaguered theater director, he could go right ahead.
Yeah. It's true.
It's a fun episode. You guys will have to check it out. You can watch MacGyver on Paramount Plus. So,
have you, Jewel? Let me ask you something. Getting sort of back on the subject of Curse of the Werewolf and Oliver Reed. Have you ever seen any of the interviews that Reed did on, say, Parkinson? Or
I saw the Saturday Night Live the Tonight Show interview.
Mm-hmm.
The one where Shelley Winters dumps the drink on him?
Yeah. He tended to show up loaded and belligerent to a lot of these. And I think it was also purposeful. It wasn't, he was well aware of his reputation, particularly by the time he was in his 40s. He was really well aware of his reputation, and I don't think he wanted to disappoint anybody, although he terrorized several of the hosts.
A living hell for Johnny Carson would have been Charles Grodin, followed by Oliver Reed.
And Charles Bronson.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. On McLaughlin Group.
The end of the episode, McLaughlin has been crucified against his...
Every time I see
Issue number one, this nail in my hand.
When I was watching that interview with Oliver Reed, it made me think Oliver Reed missed his true profession to be a pro wrestler.
He could have been one. He had the right mix of physicality and belligerence to be also drinking.
He couldn't have done the theater of it. It would have all been real. I mean, people would have emerged seriously injured from the ring.
Yeah,
no one would have gotten. He would have had to have fought robots.
He would have been what's called a stiff in the business, basically, because he would have actually hit people.
Until you went up against Andre, and then it would have been all over.
Yes, he probably would have avoided that like the plague, knowing, as Oliver Reed did, who he could bully and who he couldn't. There were several people that he wouldn't bully; he would pal around with, like, let me think. Richard Harris, one. Yeah. Even though Harris didn't like getting into fights, he was a big man. He was.
Richard Burton wouldn't have put up with that.
No, not in his youth. No, he would not. Yeah, just more or less of a rattle trap by the '80s, but before that, he was.
He would have sicked Liz on him.
She would have torn the hell out of him.
My God, it would have been all over for Reed.
It would have been blood.
What's your favorite scene from this movie, Alan? My
favorite scene from this movie is actually the climax of it, from jail cell to bell tower, etc. I
agree.
We've been waiting the whole film for it, so it is a payoff. It's a good payoff. Once we get into his dilemma. And then it finally builds to what we know is a classic sort of a tale of werewolfism, how it ends.
Yeah.
Mine obviously is the making of the Silver Bullet. It's really cool to see in this movie. But I guess my second would be just the jail sequence and him, him seeing the love of his life. This is going to end badly for this dude.
Yeah. He's kind of already decided it's going to end badly too.
Yeah, he is.
So yeah, absolutely. I think the making of the Silver Bullet is probably the most Catholic scene in the entire movie.
It's very Catholic.
It's all about consecration and all of this sort of thing. It's made from a crucifix and that sort of thing. So.
What is your guys' favorite werewolf movie?
Wow.
American Werewolf in London.
I mean, that script-wise, it is superior.
Yeah.
It is superior. I mean, yeah. I also, of course, the classic Wolfman, because it really establishes the idea of the hapless victim of the curse very well. And I think that Chaney Jr. is really underrated as an actor before he kind of fell apart in his latter years. But I thought he was really underrated as an actor. So.
Yeah.
I would say The Howling is mine. At least the first one. Don't watch the sequels. But anyway. Yeah, the sequels.
Fog Rises, yes.
Yeah. Scale 1 to 10, what do you guys give this?
I'll give this one a 6.5 to 7.
Yeah, about 6.
I'm thinking of it in the canon of Hammer films more than werewolf films at this point.
Yeah. I'm going to give this a solid 7 for its psychology. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different than most werewolf movies I've seen. And it doesn't, though it keeps the full moon as sort of your partial antagonist, it adds something with the soul connected to it, which I like.
It's not just the element of the dread of the curse. It's what that does to him. I mean, it turns him into an animal before he turns into a werewolf. He's, screaming at the top of his lungs. He's thrashing about and so on. So the fear of it is actually turning him into an animal before the curse even takes effect.
Yeah.
What do you guys want to do next? Movie.
Oh. We've mentioned a lot of movies lately that we've wanted to cover. I can't think of them. But I know we have. I'm keen. It's a movie that it's not the best movie, but it's a really interesting movie. It's one I brought up before. It's called Wrong is Right. It was Sean Connery.
Right.
And it's a really interesting film, especially sort of looked at with the same eyes that you looked at something like The Stuntman.
Yeah. Wrong is Right. Okay. Let me give you one second.
Let me see if I can find where we can find it. Was it made in the 70s?
No, it's made in like 1983, I think.
Okay.
82 or 83.
Gotcha.
And it's got young Jennifer Jason Leigh. I think it's her first film appearance before Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, 82 thriller comedy. Let's see.
Really interesting, bizarre movie.
Right.
It almost defies a genre.
Mm.
And it may be my favorite Connery movie just because of its weird complexity after Man Who Would Be King and Goldfinger.
Uh-huh. And he would have made this like a year or so after he made Never Say Never Again.
A year or so before.
Before? Oh,
that was 83.
Okay.
So it's maybe the movie that he shot right before that. But Never Say Never Again, okay. I go rogue on that. That's one of my favorite Bond movies. And that's a movie I'm happy to talk about. It's a wacky film. It is a wacky
film,
but I love it.
It's also, it doesn't gloss over the obvious. He's aging, and he's, it's like, this is my last hurrah here. If I can get through this fight without having an aneurysm.
He looks younger in that movie, though, than he looks in Diamonds Are Forever.
Yes.
He really does.
I think he was just, I don't think he was very enthusiastic about times forever. Not because of the film, but because of what was going on in his life at the time and what was going on with the Broccolis and him and everything else.
The other thing I really like about it is that I don't like Thunderball very much. I think it's boring. I think it's too long. And
the album is
the album's great. But because it's a remake of Thunderball by necessity, because he had to use the same story, I think it improves on it a lot. It's tighter. It's a lot more fun. And Jesus H, God, Klaus Maria Brandauer is so good.
Yeah.
He is so good in that movie.
It's true. It's Pluto TV has it for free.
Yeah, I just sent it to you.
Okay, cool.
Excellent.
I'll send it to you on Messenger as well.
All right.
So I'm not even going to go out and say it's a good movie. I may be, but it's a really interesting film to talk about.
In other words, let's get to the meat of its structure and how it deals with the story and all that sort of thing.
Authorially, what were they thinking? I mean, I'm always entertained by it. There's a lot in it I really like. So I haven't watched it in about 10, 15 years. So I'm sort of eager to go back and give it another glance.
I've never seen it, so I'd be interested. Definitely.
Interesting film.
When do we want to do this? Tomorrow or the next day?
We can do it tomorrow because I'm not doing my Bloody Valentine with Butcher till next week.
Tomorrow may be problematic. I've got something I have to do at 11:30.
Okay, Sunday good?
Sunday's fine.
Okay, we'll do
Sunday. Sunday 10:30. Okay.
All right.
That's good.
I'll see you guys Sunday.
Awesome.
Luke?
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.